Welcome back. It's the MARZ Thursday night stream. Once again, I'm Cory. It's Jay over there, and our intern, and we have our intern Lucius on camera over here. Well, off camera. Oh, almost made it a shot. Yeah, fun. We're here in the studio, and it's a little different in here today. We've been doing kind of very similar things a lot on this stream, where we've been kind of using similar tools, using them in similar ways, and I kind of wanted to break out of that and do something a little different. I like a lot of different kinds of things, and I'm interested in exploring all kinds of different things, especially as they relate to music technology. And so I hauled out some hardware from home. These are pieces from my little home studio. A couple of my synths and a delay pedal that I pulled off of my guitar pedal board. I have my iPad with me tonight as well. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit maybe about how hardware music or electronic music works. And oh, I am listening to you. You got to jump in about something? Yeah, so I don't want to talk over him, but Jay has been speaking. So we're still working out our sort of like talkback system here. This is a new thing with 3 of us here working the stream. And previously we have these 2 lavs, and so Jay and I are on mic right now. Although if our mix is working correctly, you should hear me and not him. He's just in the talkback in the headphones. But we don't have a separate talkback channel for Lucius, so I hear everything Jay says. So if Jay has instructions about the cameras, oh, maybe he could change it. Cool. Oh yeah, you can mute yourself in my mix, but now I can't hear you, right? So there's no what we don't have is like the kind of like switching tech back there to be like for Jay to be like, hey, I want to send this sound right now, just real quick, just to headphone output 3 and not headphone outputs 1 and 2 or whatever. We're getting there though. But that's enough explanation about the hardware setup over there. I want to talk about the hardware setup right here. So this is kind of a sort of, well, I don't know what to say. This is a random assortment of musical hardware, but it's all hooked up via this mixer and then running into this audio interface. And all this stuff does different jobs. And I'll kind of like tell you a little bit about why I have these different things on the table, and then I'll talk about what I can do with them, and then we'll try and do something, and that'll be our show. So really, there are 3 things that make sound here. 1 thing that modifies sound, and then 2 things that help sound go where they need to be. So the first, the 3 things that make sound are my 2 synthesizers and my iPad. So the synths I have the Arturia Microfreak, and which is, I've used this on the stream before. This is a interesting little piece of hardware, which is this kind of cool touch capacitive keyboard. So unlike these keys, which like travel when you press them, these keys there's no motion at all. So they just detect your key presses. So it's whereas this one has to press down a little bit before the note gets triggered. These are instantaneous, so it's very zippy feeling. And this thing's kind of a complicated instrument to explain, but basically it has a bunch of different sound engines controlled by these orange knobs, and then they're modified by the rest of this thing. But my use of messing around with this thing has been mostly to, well, I've been making a bunch of presets. It has like a really wide variety of sounds compared to a lot of other synthesizers though. So like here's like, so you get like weird sequences, like got like weird like wooden sounds, string sounds, some like fun keys. I really like that one. So it's kind of like an interesting preset machine. Although, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I've made all these presets. So that's all kinds of weird stuff. So I'm not even going to try and scratch the surface of all the variety of sounds in this thing. Just suffice it to say, it is kind of like a little box of fun that does a bunch of weird little things. To its right, there's another synth that's much larger and much simpler. Yeah, sorry we don't have our top-down cam today. We normally do. I'll make this sound a little simpler. So this is more of a straightforward subtractive synth. If you've heard me use those terms, subtractive synthesis, on this show before, subtractive synths start with a basic wave, and then you take things away from that wave with filtering. This is kind of a sort of a monster, weird subtractive synth, loosely based on an old popular synth design called the SH101, I believe. So it has these different oscillator waveforms that you can mix in, but there's just one oscillator with multiple waves, which is kind of unusual arrangement. So we have our saw, and our square, and our triangle. There's noise, and a sub oscillator, which is pretty fun. And you can mix these in varying degrees, but they're all the same note. So it's kind of cool. You get these like really interesting scooped textures and weird stuff like that. Filter it. Then the synth has some cool options for your oscillators. You get these things like the ultra saw here. Hi Lily, it's me. Fun synth. So this is a mono synth. This thing only plays one note at a time. This one is what's called paraphonic. So it's technically a mono synth and only plays one note at a time, but you can kind of fool it into playing multiple notes. There's some features that all those notes share and some features that they don't. So these two things are, they just make sounds. This one has an arpeggiator, so I can like get it to do something like do stuff like that. It's arpeggiating a chord that I play. Okay, anyways. Yeah, and then this one over here, I really like using this thing because it has a sequencer. So a sequencer is something that instead of like I play some notes and it just cycles through the notes, I can actually feed it a string of notes and it will play them in the order that I ask it to. So real quick, I'll program a sequence. This one's got entering by step. So by default, the sequence is 16 steps. So it's going to ask me to enter 16 notes or spaces. So I'm going to just make a quick sequence here. Cool. Sequencing. Pretty straightforward, right? Yeah, so then, you know, the nice thing about this is it leaves your hands free to then modify the sound. Etc., etc. I do love this feature too. It has a transposing sequencer, so my sequence now changes keys as I change notes, so I can use this to sort of like fake a longer arrangement of a bigger song. Yeah, that kind of thing. Kind of cool. So yeah, so these are both routed into, and the reason you're hearing them is these are both routed into this mixer over here to my left, which has a bunch of crazy cable spaghetti coming out of it, and it's all coming out of there for a reason. I pulled the mixer out. It's not 100% essential to set up, but I wanted to integrate this delay pedal, and so that's there, so I can route sound both to my audio interface, which I'm pointing at as soon as the camera cuts away, for us making your jobs hard. So the audio interface back here is taking audio out from my mixer and spitting it to the stream, and this is also connected to my iPad, which we'll get to. But input into this mixer are channel 1 is the mini brute, or I'm sorry, channel 1 is the micro freak. Why do they name these things this way? Channel 2, mini brute. And then I'm doing something very weird on channels 3 and 4 and with the control room output here. But one thing that is happening up top is the send and returns are active. So I'm taking the effects send out to the input of my delay pedal and then routing that back into the stereo aux return. Well, it's really a mono aux return because I only have a mono cable here. This thing doesn't do stereo out. That's fine. I don't care. So why did I do this? Why would I want this? Well, I'll show you. So is that coming through at a decent level for y'all? Yeah? Cool. So that's very dry. And sometimes the dry sound is what you want, but very rarely is that something that really interests me. I'm usually trying to take simple sounds and mess them up real good. So what we have is I have my delay patched in. So these, it's hard to see, I guess, on this camera, but these red knobs on here are FX sends. So I have separate volume controls at the bottom, and then this is like a parallel send. So these levels, these knobs down here, go to my main mix, which is going to the audio interface. But these red knobs do a parallel thing, which sends it through my delay pedal and back. So I can take any source that's inputting into the mixer and give it some delay. So we're gonna play that sequence again, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll slow it down a little bit. So if I start bringing up my effects send level, there it is. So we're hearing a single delay. This knob up here controls my delay time. This thing has a cool feature where you can tap this foot switch normally turns it on and off, but this pedal has a feature where you can tap it to sync the tempo. It's like a dotted eighth sync. You change the sync division by pressing this button. Kind of fun. I like how that sounds like moving between them. Add a little feedback. So that weird sound that you hear is like a really fun thing that happens when you change the delay time of a delay while it's running. A normal like analog delay will do this thing. It'll start to modulate its time, and it'll result in like a pitchy effect. And this like modulated delay time thing is like really one of my favorite effects ever. Like I can just sit and listen to that all day long. I really love it. But yeah, so that's what's going on. So like this setup allows me to do like at least with the synths like and this delay like right away I can set up something where I have like a repeating pattern, and then I can play something like over or under it, you know. Fun. And so this thing's also rigged up to the delay. Kind of fun. Yeah. Anyway, so stop this. Cool. So that's what's going on with the synths. You can use these to do a lot of different things. I was like messing around with these things last night, and I was kind of like trying to like trick this synth into acting more like a drum machine. You know, trying to get it to do something really percussive. You know, this is actually kind of a. You know, you can like maybe like get it to like play some like lower notes. Like you can like latch it to like. Oh, I guess it won't latch, huh? So now it gets like pretty percussive, you know? Weird stuff like that, whatever you fancy. So yeah, like the synth can be whatever kind of sound generating machine you want. Cool. I'm gonna stop that. Let's talk this iPad thing. I got this thing pulled up here. This is really what I wanted to show you, and everything else here is kind of ancillary to that. However, we figured out a screen sharing trick for this iPad, but it does not work for very long, so I'm going to be time limited in how long this works for me to show to you. But I'm going to flip that open real quick. Start my screen link recording. Start broadcast. 3, 2, 1. Let's jam. So I'm gonna get into the. I'm gonna make a new project here. You got it there, Jay? See anything? Maybe, maybe not. Sweet. Cool. So this is Koala Sampler. There are a lot of apps for tablets, for phones, that are interesting. This one has been on my radar for quite some time because it's basically a software clone of a very, very famous sampler called the SP404. You may listen to an artist who uses it already. I'm trying to think of who I really like who uses it. Big users, Panda Bear is one. I know Teebs is a producer from LA, makes all of his music on them as well. So they're these cool little hardware sampling units that can live process sounds. They can resample things on the fly. So you can like record a sound into them, sample it to a pad, resample the pad, blah, blah, blah. And so I have that functionality here. So the gist of this thing is these pads can be used to make recordings. And then you can play back sound. So I'm going to quick generate a drum kit. So you can see my meter moving here. If I press pad to record here, you see our display is pretty laggy from my actual playing here, but you kind of get the idea. So I send a bunch of white noise. That's going to be a snare. Let's filter that noise with a high pass filter. Oh, that's really interesting. Crackle. I don't know where that's coming from. Cool. And then we're going to do a pitch dropping filter. And this will be our kind of bass drum. And I'm going to process this with this more bass effect and lower the pitch. So we can edit this thing and trim off from the beginning. I think they get as kicky as some of these did before. Maybe that's more like it. So I can chuck that thing away and record another one. Yeah, I like that more. Trim it a little bit. So we can edit our samples and make them start exactly where we want. You know, it's pretty straightforward. So like, maybe I want to add like another, I don't know, I'll make it a couple other little noises here. Let's see what I can get out of this just real quick. That's kind of fun. Interesting. Making weird noises. I really want like snappy short things. Like that. Yeah, like that. So something I noticed that was really cool about this thing is that you can like combine these pads really easily. So like if I want to like take two of these pads and stick them together, just go drag and drop them and mix them. And so you can like drag a copy there, and then like say I want to like do something weird to this one. You can like mix it in with this, you know, just mix it. And like you can, you know, just like layer them all together in weird ways, mix them. You can also like do things like reverse them. Pretty fun. I'm all about this. Kind of weird options. So yeah, here's like a weird little drum kit that I just made with random sounds from my synth. Super fun. So this thing's rad. So you take your samples, you can kind of edit them, get them together, like process them with the input effects if you need to. And then over here, oops, that weird multitasking window. I hate that thing. In the sequence window, you can take these things and turn it into a pattern. There's a pro version where you can step sequence this, but I've just been using the recording version. So let's do something. Yeah, like whatever. The default tempo is like 110. You want to pick a number between 1 and 80, or let's say a number between 80 and 160.
127.
20 what?
127.
7. You got it. All right, 127. Cool. Random tempo. Okay, so here are 127 beats per minute. So I'll turn the metronome on and we can hear it. By default, these are 1 bar. So we'll start there. So I turn recording on, it'll lay in anything that I play. And it quantizes your recording. You can already hear that's pretty locked in. You can duplicate this with this double up button. So I just like added. So that's pretty cool. So, you know, like I've just got one sequence going right here. You can, like the idea is like you can have multiple ones. Here, let's develop another one. I'm gonna lay in a bunch of hats. It did not like my triplets. So then I can freely switch between these two sequences. You know, and I'll like jump between them like in the correct spot, so I can like, pretty neat. And then there's all these performance controls. Some of them do some weird stuff. I have no luck getting the stutter thing to work. I think maybe it just needs not a lot of space. Things get pretty weird pretty fast over here. yeah, it's really neat. So like you can just do all kinds of wacky stuff. So aside from all of that, because that feels like a lot already to me. That's a pretty fun sound. So you can process this with like some of these incoming effects. Like while I'm performing. Kind of interesting. So there's like it's like a separate effects process for the inputs as for the like sequence song. Why are you doing this to me? It's funny. It's like always running sound. Oh, that's why. This thing lets you trigger the amp with the LFO, so you can kind of create an always running scenario. Well, I'm not sure why it did that either. That was really weird. Fun. I'm like, why does it sound like that? There's always something weird. Oh yeah, my resonance jacked up. There we go. Normal synth stuff. Cool. Yeah. So synths, sampler. The whole reason this works properly is because of this audio interface. So this is actually functioning as an audio interface for my iPad right now. So one of my big complaints about the iPad as a sampling and music making tool is that it doesn't have like proper audio inputs. It has like a TRRS, like like inline mic input. So you can record mono sources like from your like earbud microphone or whatever. But like that's not what you want to do for music. You want like high quality inputs. So I have this whole like convoluted chain of adapters over here. I have this is the iPad like camera connection kit. There's a few different solutions to this, but like if you have one of these old iPads with a Lightning port, which are not, I mean, current ones have it too. They don't. You can get like a Lightning to USB-C cable, but this thing wouldn't talk to my interface that way. It needs the camera connection kit and then a USB-A to C adapter, and now I've got my C cable running to the interface. So now this interface takes this whole mixer, runs it into my iPad, and then combines that with the iPad signal and runs it out. So all these sounds are pre-iPad. So I could sample something to these pads that was like a sound made on both of these synths and the delay pedal at the same time, which is kind of a weird idea of a workflow. But you could if you wanted to do that. I would love like more control over this, where like this thing was like, if I had another send here, I could like choose which instrument went into my sampler and at like how loud, we have mixers like in the other room that have like 2 sends instead of just 1, but it's like it's as big as this thing, and I didn't want to put it on the table. So I'm kind of like I have the sort of workflow here that I've got. So one of the unfortunate things about it is that like if I wanted to like jam on it, I can't then like resample just one instrument. I have to resample my whole jam basically. I was like kind of messing around with this earlier, and that was one limitation. So like to set this up in like Ableton would take like 2 seconds, right? I have 2 synths. I have like a drum rack basically with some effects on it, and like to establish all these effects and like make them interesting in Ableton would take some effort. But then I got like the delay pedal over here on like a return track basically, and then a few inputs of mixes. So all this stuff is like super simple to set up, but like it took me like a good chunk of time to get this all plugged in and talking to each other. And like I don't even know if I'm gonna make anything that sounds like music right now. But we shall see. We shall see what happens. Cool. Anything else I want to show you about this the sampler, I feel like it's really straightforward. I think I like showed you all of its features now that I'm thinking about it. There are some special things that it does, but I haven't unlocked them yet. It does have an AI stem splitting tool, which is really interesting. So if you import like a full song in here, it will use AI and split it into its component parts. So you can like unmix a mix with this thing randomly. And the coolest thing about this app is not even something I'm going to show you. The coolest thing about this app is this very bottom menu item here, which says Get Live Light. This app is $5, and it comes with Ableton Live Light. It is by far the cheapest way to get Ableton. I usually use Ableton Suite. So there's 4 tiers of Ableton. There's Light, Intro, Standard, and Suite. Light is pretty light on features, but if you want to learn how to use the program, it's a super easy entry point. This thing also, I believe, does it have a link? We'll check and see if it does. Inter-app audio sync, input source, MIDI, Ableton Link, yes, cool. So this thing has Ableton Link, which means that it will synchronize its tempo and its start and stop with Ableton as long as they're both just open and running on the same network. Maybe I'll demo that in another stream. I wanted to do a computerless thing tonight, but we can show that off at some point. There's all sorts of interesting settings. This is kind of a deep instrument, but those are, that's pretty much the whole thing. Like those are all like just kind of nerdy settings. Basically, pads, effects, that's about it. So I'm going to run out of my ability to screen share this iPad real quick because I'm using a free app to do that. I love my free apps, but they tend to restrict your features. So we're going to hide this thing away so that it doesn't go black on you. So bye-bye. Cool. What do I want to do now? I was debating whether I want to show this. So I do have something weird set up over here, and I'll show you this real quick, and then I'm just going to try and like see if I can turn anything into some music here. The other special thing I have going on is all contained in the mixer itself. So I have this, I have a little setup here. I said there was something going on channels 3 and 4, which I talk about in a minute. What I have is a feedback loop. So the left and right control room outputs which have their own dedicated volume control, are being routed back into inputs 3 and 4. This creates a situation that is what's referred to as a no input mixer, where the mixer's outputs are fed back into its inputs, and we're going to generate sound just using electrical feedback and no external inputs. So this is like a form of synthesis in a way, creating feedback systems. So I am going to turn my output volume down because it is wild and crazy, and we'll see how this goes. So I'm cranking my master mix, and I'm cranking my control room mix. Although we'll see. Actually, maybe I'm going to crank the tracks first. See what happens. And then here comes this thing. So we should be starting. You see how tiny that motion is? I'm controlling that. Tiniest little motions. So if I reduce these levels, I should probably get more granular control. This is like, I'm like, trust me, there's a reason I'm doing this. So you get these kind of like squeals of feedback that take a really dramatically different character depending on what you do over here. It's a weird one. There's a YouTube thumbnail for you. Like whatever, it's like a bunch of like space farts. But it gets more interesting when you introduce this delay pedal, which has feedback built into this feedback loop. And for me, being not like a no input mixer guy, I'm like kind of exploring for some sweet spots here, but there's like places where like the controls become more interactive. I've got these things panned, so we're getting some stereo effects out of them, which is kind of interesting. A lot of like clicks and pops until you get into something interesting. Anyways, I got some cooler sounds out of it before, I swear. You just never really know what you're gonna get. This is like an art form though. Like people do this as a thing. I'm not just like a weirdo. I was watching a cool tutorial from someone who's like, this is like their instrument, and this is like what they do. You can take anything in this world seriously if you want to, and do it at a serious level. But I think it's really neat. Resampled a couple of these. So I noticed that like I had some stereoization going on, and my samples here are stereo, and I don't like it. So I'm just gonna go through and make those mono real quick. So there's a make mono button. Oh. They tried to do the AI thing. So I think there's like something funny and glitchy about this thing where when I tell it to make mono, it thinks I am trying to extract some stems. That's definitely not what I want. I just want that sample to be mono. Make mono, make it mono. There we go. Make mono, make it mono. And here it is trying to extract some stems. It's a little funny glitch in this thing, but anyways. Pads, drums, sound. I'm gonna turn this volume back up so I'm not doing this no input thing right now. So hopefully that makes some sense. So I have, right, I have my sound sources coming to the mixer. The mixer runs into this interface where it kind of connects to the stream of my iPad. So all the stuff and my iPad run in parallel out the mixer, or I'm sorry, out the audio interface to you and the stream. And then I have my delay pedal running in parallel. So there's like like I said, like a sampler and 2 sound generating sources plus the mixer, maybe a 3rd sound generating source, and then we get some like weird effects. So like, what did I do before? Well, I kind of wonder if I can like get some more like drummy sounds in here real quick. Like, can we edit this and sound something more like a drum? Yeah, we can do that. So I'm just gonna trim the sample like. Sometimes it's like making things short is all you need to do to make it sound like a drum. Not like, necessarily like my favorite drum sound I've ever achieved, but it's got something going on. So yeah, let's go back and I'm going to clear the sequences that I made and I'm just gonna make something else. 127 beats per minute. Let's try and create some music here. I really like having a metronome as like a starting point. It makes my life really easy. Then also the nice thing about this, having this display here is that I can see exactly what the tempo is. So like, I would love for all these devices to sync to each other nicely. I managed to get this synth to control the clock on this synth, but I don't have in this setup the iPad clocking everything. So this clock is not a master clock in my setup yet. I think you can do that with this, but there's a whole issue with video gear and sound. There's a whole issue about synchronizing the signals, and there's a totally thing here with like music clocking. So like we all want to agree, like with the musicians, y'all got to agree as to where the beat is, and so we got to agree on that too here. So I don't know. I'm gonna do something. Like weird clave. Cool, so whatever, that's chill. So we can add some effects to that. like pitching things up. It's kind of fun. So like we can get a little idea going here on the sequencer. So I have an initial preset over here right now. Oops, that's not what to do. Oh, it's not enough. So this is a default preset. So I like to which was so easy just to loop that, right? There's like the computer stuff. Here I gotta get all like granular here, turn my sequencer on, and like I can start it playing and record with it. It has like a real-time recording feature. But it's just like one bar, you know? I guess I could set this to some kind of fractional tempo. Oh yeah. So something that I noticed would be really nice to do, like I was saying, I want to like resample just one instrument. I could like, I can't like really like sequence this into another thing, but I can record it and resample it and make it do another thing. So I'm going to double this up because I have an idea of a chord change that I want to do, but I need some bass notes for that. So I'm going to ditch that sample and I'm going to like make a good bass sound. And I'm going to use the bass enhancer too. So we'll go. That's pretty weird that it pitched that up. Oh, I know why I pitched it up, because I have a performance enabled. I know what I'm doing, I swear. So let's add that to our sequence. So I'm going to like make a copy of this. Wait till it wraps around, and I'll record it. Oh, I think that's actually the wrong pattern though, right? Cool, so now like my synth's freed up, I can do something else. This also would be a great use for like a loop pedal where I could like loop this thing and do something else, but oh well. So like so many options, right? This sounds like so radically different, you know. Kind Kind of wish that I could make this a little weirder, but I can though. Yeah, some really dramatic sound alterations in there. But this becomes like an exploration process, you know? So I seem to be sequencing this. I kind of forgot that you could sequence these knob adjustments. I'm not sure how to turn that off. I can switch sequences, I guess. So you quickly get into some weird territory. But it's pretty fun. I like hardware jams. They're super weird. Let's try and make a new pattern. Something totally different. I'm going to scrap these guys. And we'll just do... I'm going to switch tempos. That was a good tempo, though. Thank you. I like that one. I'm going to go for something a little slower. So we're going to initialize something else. And we're gonna make this little 2-bar pattern. Cool. So what tempo did we pick? We picked 103, so I gotta manually sync this thing. So tedious. I love it. Nothing. I love more some tedium. So then we can make a sequence and like trigger it. You want to shoot the time. So the cool thing about this is like now that this thing's synchronized, this arpeggiator actually is as well in theory. So this, you can hear it's not really like super synced. That's a little better. Pretty weird sound. Oh hey, this knob just broke. That's interesting. So you can kind of like, you can trick this thing into like doing some more like rhythm stuff. So we get this kind of like long form rhythm. And then like I want this running sequencer so I can like add to this at any time. So I'm gonna flip this into paraphonic mode and like I can play some chords or something like that. you. 10 minutes. So what am I going to do? Oh, I got to turn recording on, huh? That's a short pattern, eh? There we got a little bit of a longer pattern. So like I could like resample that whole thing. This it's kind of neat. So that's like the whole like little loop this thing is playing. I just have on a pad now. So cool. There's so many weird sounds coming in. It's probably a more typical use of this kind of sound. I really like the sound of this feedback here. Cool. Yeah, so goal-oriented, maybe not the name of the game here. So how do people do this and like make music with it? Because you saw me just like mess with this for 20 minutes and like, well, I don't know if you call that music. So cool sounds. So like mostly where I find the utility in something like this is like, it's like a sound generating laboratory playground, right? And so I'm like going here, I'm like, where are my weird noises? You know, where are they? Looking for them. I'm hunting around. And when I find one, I might want to capture it somewhere. And so like a lot of times, like a really useful thing to do with a session like this would be to just record the whole freaking thing. I've demonstrated this on stream before. If you remember on Hell's resampling method that he talked about on his stream. I do that all the time now. And this was like maybe the best tip about music making that I've ever received. And just turn the knobs and see how they sound. And like, you know, if you're being goal oriented about like, I'm trying to make this noise, like you might not get there. And if you're just exploring with what you can do, you might get somewhere totally different and weird. Yeah. so that's one way that you can do this. Is like you can just have us all just like kind of like dink around and do whatever, just kind of like what I'm doing. But if you're a little more serious about this, you might have prepared something, like where like this thing can store sequences along with its presets, and it can store 2 per preset. So like like I could have like a 2-part song, and this thing had the 2 parts of the song in it, and it would play it. And then like maybe I could get it to sync to my iPad, and I had a project saved with a couple of drum patterns that worked really great for this. And then like that could be and then I could jam on top of it with the synth and tweak some effects on this thing, and that could be my whole live set, and I could be like an artist that's what I did. So finding instruments like cool, hands-on, intuitive, like no preset, what you see on the panel is what you hear, is a really cool tool for when you just want to make some noise. But like when you want, like you can't recall anything on this, and so like I have to zero out all the settings if I want to like go back to a default setting. Whereas this thing, I can just turn the knob really far, and I have my init patches here. Yeah. And then also like I think I didn't even really like scratch the surface of what you can do with this delay, but there's like I just kept it on the deluxe memory band setting, which is like a model of a classic analog pedal, and just turned the feedback and delay time knobs, and that's all I did. And then changed the volume of the sounds going into it. But you can do, this thing has a bunch of different presets of different kinds of things. There's all sorts of weird stuff to do there. So yeah, really it's about figuring out what you want to do, and then figuring out what you're going to use to do it, and then figuring out how you need the sounds to route to accomplish that. So like my thing that I couldn't accomplish tonight is I wanted to resample like from this while this was playing, and I couldn't do that with this setup. If I had a separate mixer or a second set of sends or something like that, blah blah blah. Electronic setups are hard, and like it takes a while to experiment with it before you land on something you like. I still have never done that. I've had these instruments for years. I just like record them into Ableton and play with Ableton because I find that a faster way to go about finishing tracks. But if you're coming more from a place of like performing or whatever, instead of like, if your goal is to just like create a performance where you are in control of the sound, and like this is a really fun way to go about it, because like I have a knob for everything that I want to do. Whereas on the computer, I'm like clicking around or like setting up some sort of like preset system or something where I can map some knobs to something. But here it's like my delays controls are here on the delay. If I want to change my delay, it's right here. Like I just have a knob for everything. It gets expensive, it gets complicated fast, but I'm also free, aside from the tablet, free from the distractions of the computer and all that stuff, so that's kind of nice too. So we're getting close to the end of our little block here. We're now shortening, we're just taking an hour up tonight. Did we hit it already? Not quite, maybe? 2 minutes, okay, cool. So I'm still on the air. That means you're still watching me. Hi, y'all. So I think we're probably not going to continue too much later than this tonight, but sometimes our streams might run a little over still, in which case we're going to switch over to a YouTube-style thing. We won't be there today, but I believe you can see this URL at the bottom of the screen, and that's where we'd be if we were continuing on. I'm hoping next week that we're going to have a guest. It is not 100% confirmed, so I will not say anything about it, other than we may have a guest who will also be hopefully doing some hardware things and talking more about songwriting and composition stuff, which I think would be really great, because I mostly just noodle and make noise on here. So I'll be looking forward to hearing some interesting, different perspectives. So once again, thanks to everyone who's like our sponsors and all of our viewers and all of that. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Thanks for rebroadcasting us. Sweet. And then I guess we'll catch you next time on the stream. Take it easy, y'all.